What we're going to have a look at right now is how to identify step by step what is a long or a buy signal into the foreign exchange market. The best way for you to learn this is visually, so let's have a look at one of the lifestyle charts right now. What you can see here is our chart with our green line and our red line. What we want to do is identify when to enter the market on a buy for a long signal. A long signal is when the green line crosses above the red line and both of the lines are pointing in an upward direction. Another way you could view this is if you impose a clock face around the signal, the lines need to be pointing between 12 o'clock and 3 o'clock. And as you'll notice, that is in an upward direction. It needs to make sense. If you want the market to go up, the lines need to be pointing, guess which direction? Up. So now that we can see a long signal here on the chart, we need to identify what is our official entry price to get into this market. The chart you're viewing here is an example of the euro versus the US dollar currency pairs. What we need to find is the exact entry price we would strive to achieve to enter this market. Now when the lines cross, we want to enter on the closing price of the day of the cross. So what that means is if you're looking visually on the chart and you see a cross on that day, you need to check the closing price of that market, and that is the price that you want to get in at. So what do you do if the lines cross and they are not pointing in the correct direction that you would like them to go? Well, in this case, we need confirmation that the signal is correct. We would not enter immediately in this case. What we would do is we would wait one more day until the next update. And if the next update has both of the lines pointing in the direction that you want the market to go, we would then enter on the closing price of that day. So in summary, if the lines aren't perfectly crossing on the first day, we would wait the second day. And if they are pointing in the correct direction on the second day, that's when we would enter the trade. If on the second day the lines are still not pointing in the correct direction after they cross, we would skip the trade altogether. Let's now look at a perfect example of a long signal and how to track that signal through its progress. If we have a perfect signal where the green line crosses above the red and the lines are pointing in the correct direction, we would enter on the closing price of that day. For this example, let's use 1.3500. We would also need to enter our stop order. And the stop order we can enter at our stop price. Now the beautiful thing is through using our tools, the stop price is calculated for you. We have the long stop and the short stop, which is based on the ATR. Because we are going long, which stop would we use? The long stop. So you need to look at the long stop price, and we would enter our stop order at that price. So for this example, our stop price is 1.3400. That has given us a risk on this trade of 100 pips. So now we've had a perfect cross, we've entered the trade at 1.3500 and we have a stop in place at 1.3400. What we do now as a trader is close our computer, we've entered the market, and we would check the trade next day at the update time for our trading. Now that we're at the next update, we need to see where the market is. And we can check that price by having a look at the latest close price. The key here is to determine whether you need to stay in this trade or get out of the trade. If the lines have crossed, we would get out. If the lines haven't crossed, we would stay in. So in this case, you can see that the lines have not crossed, and we would stay in the trade. We would now update the price to see where we're up to, and the closing price of this day is 1.3450. What you may notice straight away is that we're down on this trade. What does that mean? It's okay. What you'll find is when trading, the markets fluctuate. What this means is it may not go in your direction immediately. It may go against you a little bit and then take off the way that you would like to do it. Or you may get stopped out, and that's why we have our stop order there to protect your downside. So our next step is to check at the next update time, which is the next day, to see whether we need to get out of the trade or stay in the trade. And what is that criteria? If the lines have crossed, we get out. If they haven't crossed, what do? We stay in. So in this example, the lines have not crossed, so we would stay in the trade and look at the closing price of that day, and it happens to be now at 1.3550. What can you notice so far is happening with this trade? Initially we were down, and now you can see the market is moving in our direction and we are currently up. Hey, good news. Are you getting the picture of how this works? Very simple. You check it every day at the update time to see whether you should stay in a trade or get out of a trade. If we follow this signal now to its end, we just need to wait until we get another cross. When the cross occurs for an exit signal, now this is important, the lines do not have to be in a perfect angle for an exit signal. The lines simply just have to cross, and that means you need to get out of the market, because that indicates to us that the market is changing direction. So when the lines cross for an exit signal, you will exit the market at the closing price of that day of the cross. And you can see in this example, that price happens to be 1.3600. So let's wrap up and have a look at this process. We entered long on a perfect signal, the cross was the correct angles, and the green crossed above the red. We entered on the closing price of that day, and we entered our stop at the long price stop. We followed that trade over the next couple of days at each update, and we exited the trade when the lines crossed again, and that price happened to be 1.3600, which was the closing price of the cross of that day. So let's have a look at the results of the trade. We entered initially at 13500. We had a stop at 13400. That means we had a 100 pip risk on the trade. Through this trade, as it progressed, initially first down and then up into our direction, we exited at 13600, which means what happened? We had a 100 pip gain as the result of this trade.